Hey there, in today's travel tip video, we have a major airline flight attendant this time sharing her travel hacks and some tips and tricks for you inside the airplane, as well as some packing hacks that could help you as an airline passenger in 2024. Welcome to Jeannine. Thanks for doing this. There are so many stereotypes for flight attendants. Does anyone ever call you a stewardess?
My husband. All the time. I'm his stewardess. Yes. It doesn't really matter to me, honestly. We do the same thing.
Yes.
It's just, I think, more PC. Instead of saying steward and stewardess, we've got flight attendant. And I think so many of us have college degrees now. It's a second career. So, yeah, flight attendant is fine. I don't personally mind stewardess, but a lot of people do.
Okay. Jeannine and I are friends from our church here in the Woodlands, and so our husbands do know each other. We all know each other. So one question that a lot of viewers ask me on this channel is, why can't flight attendants help passengers even if they're short? Why can't they help them or a senior citizen put their carry-on bags in the overhead bins anymore?
Injury, personal injury. So many of us, including myself, have injured a shoulder or a back or something just by lifting bags that we didn't pack, and we're not covered by that. So
have you had a passenger get angry when you've had to say, I'm sorry, I can't help?
They just think we're being lazy or we don't want to do our job. But honestly, we have been told by our airline, you can't lift their bags because we're not covered. Sorry.
And most people follow your rules.
Yes, most people do. But I just tell them, sometimes if there's nobody around, I'll pretend to help. I'll kind of put my hand on the side and make it look like I'm helping, but I no longer lift simply because I've had a shoulder injury. They can stand on the chair. That's what I do. If I need to get into my bag or remove something, I'll just stand on the chair or just ask somebody. Find that cute guy.
And what made you want to become a flight attendant?
I was a teacher, and I was looking towards summer, and a friend of mine said, hey, my sister's a flight attendant, you should do it. So I just decided I was going to do this for 1 year. I was terrified of flying. I went to my interview with White Knuckles, and I just wanted to see the world and travel, and a year later I told my principal I wasn't coming back, and she cried, and here I am 24 years later, loving it.
How many days do you usually pack or have to pack for a trip? Like my husband's, they're like 4 or 5 days. Is that about yours?
It's nice to have 4 days worth of clothes in there just in case. I always have 1 to 2 workout clothes, a pair of jammies, a swimsuit, because you never know where you're going to end up. Even if it's just a 1-day trip, I always have at least 2 going out outfits.
How many hours in a day are you allowed to work?
The FAA has definite limits, but each airline is different, and contractually those can range from like 13 to 16 hours a day. They can schedule them up to like 14, but they may push them to 16 or something like that, depending on what time of day you start. It depends on if it's international or domestic, and then irregular operations, mechanical things, weather delays. So,
do you have a travel tip for how to make everything fit in your carry-on suitcase? Or do you just make it? You're rolling.
I'm a roller. I roll my clothes.
Okay. And why?
It helps with wrinkles, for one.
Really?
When I started out my first few years folding and just stacking them up and pressing them down, and they'd always be wrinkled. I find when I roll them, I have far fewer, and I can just fit so much more in there. It just works for me.
Okay. And see, I think rolling takes forever. And that's like the main reason I don't roll. The most popular travel hack that I was ever taught was by a flight attendant, and that's to use the hotel pants hanger to keep the curtains closed. I thought that was just brilliant. And because you travel so often, you've learned a lot of travel hacks. What is a travel hack that you use when you're flying or packing?
I like to have a little bag, bright colored. I have an orange bag. I keep all of my chargers in. That way, when I'm packing up my room to leave, I see that bright orange bag and I know there's supposed to be 3 chargers in there. That bag is my constant reminder that it should have all my chargers. Everything stays in my bag. I have 2 of everything.
2 of like what?
Everything. 2 sets of running shoes, 2 toothbrushes, 2 chargers for my phone, 2 chargers for my laptop, 2 chargers for my iPad, 2 of everything. It's a little expensive at first, but it is well worth not leaving anything behind, not getting somewhere and not having it.
What was the other travel hack you told me about?
Oh, the tennis ball. I keep a tennis ball in my bag all the time. So at the end of the day, after I've been on my feet all day, I just put that on the floor and I roll my foot on that tennis ball. And it just, you hear it go pop, 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 and it just relieves all that tension.
My mom's foot doctor told her, like for a long flight and for her plantar fasciitis or something, to do in the airplane seat, to do the lowercase alphabet with each foot.
Yes.
Have you heard that?
It works. It keeps moving the blood and it pumps up your leg.
Do you go out and tour the city or go out to eat with the flight attendants on layovers?
Many years ago, the whole crew would go out to dinner together. The whole crew. But that doesn't really happen anymore. I'm more of an independent explorer now, and I just like to see the new places. Anything I can do to be outside, not stuck in my hotel room.
All right, a lot of my viewers use CPAP machines. Do you have any tips for those?
I had a CPAP for quite a while, and I would just slide it over the handle.
Okay. Yep.
The other big thing is there's much smaller versions now that you can get. There's even travel versions, and they're great.
They're so expensive.
When you're going through security with a CPAP machine, talk to the TSA agent that's right there, because they think they're very consistent, but they're not. And it also depends on which X-ray machine they have. Some of them you can put it through, some of them you have to take it out. My other tip, buy a bottle of water once you're through security or at the hotel if you can't carry distilled water with you.
Okay. Do you use a J hook? Because that's one tip that I thought. If they do not have the little trolley strap for the CPAP machine, they can attach it to the J hook.
True. I have a J hook, but I don't love them. I find my luggage falls off a lot, especially going down an escalator, or if I'm just standing and my luggage leans over and then I walk away, the J-hook just isn't as reliable.
All right, in the news lately, we have had arguments with airline passengers about closing the window, keeping the window shade up. What about reclining seats? Have you ever had to squelch an argument between passengers about that?
They complain a lot about the reclining seats, but
like
there's really...
What? Like
they're reclining into my space.
Yes,
so,
because airlines are saving money.
And they're putting them closer and closer together. In fact, I've even taken pictures and sent them in. Car seats, reverse-facing car seats won't even fit in the seats anymore. Yes.
That's not good.
No. But, yeah, there's not a whole lot a flight attendant can do about that, honestly.
Have you ever been in an airplane working that they've had to divert for an unruly or ugly passenger?
I personally have not,
okay,
fortunately, but I know others who have. I have had to separate people. I have had to handcuff people.
What?
Oh, yeah, it's ridiculous. We had a knockdown, drag out. Blood was flying.
And what was it about?
I don't even know. It was a couple. A
couple?
A couple. Like, married couple. Mad at each other, fists flying, teeth flying. It was ridiculous. We didn't divert. We handled it, but...
When passengers walk onto the airplane, sometimes flight attendants are in the back of the airplane, and I know they must be thinking, why did she do that? Oh, they are taking way too long, or that's a rude customer right there. We're going to have problems with her. What annoys you as people are boarding, and then what annoys you as they're getting seated?
Okay, as they're boarding, I love saying hello to everybody. Hello, welcome, have a good day. How are you? Welcome. It's like I'm not even there.
Oh, really?
Yes.
They don't say hi?
No.
Oh.
I can say hi to 250 people a day, and I probably get 25 hi's back.
Oh.
I know. So.
What about thank you?
Very few of those too. But they're better on the thank you, or on the goodbye. Yeah. Other thing that bothers me when they get on, when they're boarding, is that, can we use this restroom? There are 500 restrooms out there. I don't want to take it with us. Okay? Why? You can leave it here. Don't bring it with us. And then I'm going to tell you that there's one in the back, because this one, we're trying to keep it flowing, and the pilots need to go before we take off, and just things like that. So.
And do you ever tell the pilots, we have bathrooms outside in the boarding area. Did you not go?
No. Because they go right before we take off.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Yeah. So.
All right. And then what annoys you when they're seating?
When they're getting seated, I don't understand why people won't just talk to other people. If they think they get to their seat and, there's somebody in their seat, they will come all the way back up the aisle against traffic to say, there's somebody in my seat. And then I have to go all the way back there and say, excuse me, may I look at your boarding pass? And just, it's an easy thing. Excuse me, you might be in my seat. Let's learn to talk to people.
Gotcha.
Let's not be afraid. The other thing is, if there is somebody in their seat, they might just take another empty seat. And then the next person will come and they'll take an empty seat, and then it's just a ripple effect.
Anything else when they're getting seated?
There's nobody in the exit row. Can I sit there?
Oh. What annoys you during the drink and the snack portion? I'm assuming that really annoys flight
The
attendants.
people.
Really? For what? What can we do? Or what do we do that is bad? Because some of us have never flown before.
Right.
Some of us are so used to it, we're like, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
I'm talking too fast, you can't hear me.
Take out the earbuds so that you can hear me. Or push pause. I would love you for that. Really, truly love you if you would take them out. Yeah, so you can hear what I'm asking. Know what you want. You see us coming, you have time to think about it. If you don't know what we have, pull out the little magazine and just look at that.
It's in the back of the magazine.
It is.
Usually.
I don't know if it's in the back. It's somewhere in the middle where you can't really find it, but it's there. We like manners. And please don't yell at your children and try to force them to say thank you.
Oh, okay.
Please. Pretty much if your kids aren't saying it to you at home, they're not going to say it to me, so don't yell at your children.
When you're giving the safety demo before the flight takes off, most everybody now has their AirPods. They're watching. They've flown lots of times. What do you think on that?
Most of them aren't watching, and it's to be expected. I'm not going to force them to watch, but what irritates me is when they're having conversation and I can't hear the announcement, because I have to hear the announcement in order to know what I'm doing. If I'm doing exits, if I'm doing the mask, if I'm doing seatbelts. So.
I thought it was just because they were being rude, talking while you're
There might be somebody in the row behind you who can't hear either, and maybe it's their first time and they might be interested in knowing how to save their own life.
Brilliant.
So, yes.
I never would have thought about that. It's all about perspective.
It is. And if they're talking too loud, I will stop them and just ask them to tone it down so I can hear what I'm doing. But
that teacher voice comes out.
Yes, it does.
In lots of flight attendants and passengers. What about pilots? Do pilots?
I know you're married to a pilot, and I know
what
him.
do they do that annoys you?
This is a very loaded question.
And
for
it works.
me.
Is that a whole other video?
It is. No, I really, most pilots are just fine. You know, it really varies with the individual. But I don't like it when they come on and say, I take my coffee black, and are our meals here? Allow me to say hello, welcome, how are you? My name is Jeannine, or da-da-da, was I supposed to say my name?
Just being respectful.
Yes. Just introduce yourself. Allow me to offer before you throw it in my face.
That's good.
So,
that's good. And that's with anybody.
That is.
Any work.
Yes.
Coworker.
My other big thing, and this is for most of us, we can't get off the plane between flights because there's a time limit, whereas pilots can. So when they get off the plane during flights, between flights, they don't get off during flights. That'd be bad. When they get off between flights and they come back with coffee or food, it's kind of like you could have offered. Because we're stuck on here for like sometimes 13 hours a day, and all we have is airplane food. And you come back with a nice bag of, whatever.
We need more pilots to be good examples to the ones coming up who are not as experienced. You know, to teach them that that's what you do.
That's a big one. That reminds me when we have to go into the flight deck when one of them takes a bathroom break. In the olden days, you can always tell the older pilots, they clear off that little extra jump seat so that we have a place to sit. And the new guys just leave their luggage there and we just have to stand there. And it's like literally the 5 minutes out of my whole day where I can sit down with nobody bugging me. So, yeah.
Do you have any tips and tricks for passengers who are scared to death of flying? Any part of it?
Not alcohol.
Oh.
Yes.
Why?
It just doesn't really help the situation and it dehydrates them, and drinking on a plane is a lot worse than drinking on the ground. Talk to your doctor, first of all, and a lot of times you can take a Valium, but let the flight crew know that you're going to take something before you take it so that we can be aware if something happens. And then don't mix the alcohol with the Valium.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My biggest tip if you're afraid to fly is take a class, because I went to my interview with white knuckles, and when I was in class, I learned all of the statistics on flying, trains, planes, boats, cars. Flying is the safest. My other recommendation would be to drive.
Do you like it when passengers give you snacks?
I do. I love it. Now, not everybody feels the same way, and I don't love all of the sugar, all of the candy and the chocolate, but it's just the thought that counts.
Okay. Should it be like wrapped from a store, or do you,
Yes.
I mean, do you really eat homemade things anymore?
No. People still give us homemade things, and it's so sweet, but it's just not it's gonna end up in the trash. But just bringing a bag of like little individually wrapped somethings, we love those. We even love like little munchkins from Dunkin' Donuts, or $5. Hey, do you guys have a van tonight? Are you going to the hotel tonight? Here's $5 for your van tip. Oh my God, that's my favorite.
Oh, that's a good one.
Here's your crew tip for the van. Here's $5. Or here's a $5 gift card for Starbucks. Or
Pilots only give $1.
it's for the whole crew.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes.
Gotcha.
No, we only give $1 as well, but here's for your crew. Here's
Got
$5
it.
van tip for your crew tonight. No.
If you're giving snacks or gifts, what's the bare minimum number of flight attendants that would be? Like 4 people?
A major airline, you're going to have a minimum of 3 flight attendants.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Up to 14 if you're like international.
14. That's crazy.
Yeah, so.
Okay, now what if this couple has planned this bucket list trip, and they get to their flight and their seats are not together? There's a Kleenex.
I'm sorry. Their seats are
Even
not
flight
together.
attendants spill.
Yes, we do.
Their seats are not together, and now they are fuming mad because the gate agent couldn't switch them, and now they come to you. We're not seated together. First of all, they could say, "Hi, could you help us, please? We're not seated together, and we bought the tickets together."
I have different responses, and one, how you approach me is part of it.
Yeah.
But one, it's my personal belief that you're about to spend 2 weeks together. This is your last chance to be on your own. Enjoy it. That I don't say that out loud though. The other thing is you have to just ask people. Like just ask somebody next to you, would you mind switching so that we could sit together and I'll buy you a drink, or I'll buy you a snack, or just hand them a pack of gum,
Right.
or just anything to ask, because we can't honestly just ask people.
They have the right to say no.
They do
I'm
have
not
the
gonna-
right to say no. And even if you find a flight attendant who can ask, and frequently I will, for children, I'm not so much for grown-ups, because I think that grown-ups can ask themselves.
Yeah.
But just offer. Yeah.
And they can be apart for 2 hours. However, you paid for those seats. It's like renting a car and getting to the place and they're like, "We're out of cars." And you're like, "But Seinfeld, I
Yes,
reserved the
it."
car." So we learned from one of Chris's videos, if they have canceled a flight or delayed a flight, they're now on a smaller version of that Boeing 737 or Airbus.
And the seats are in a different configuration.
Exactly. So it's not their fault, not the gate agent's fault. It's the airline's.
And sometimes
fault.
you've just reserved that flight and not necessarily your seats.
If it's a kid, like I need to sit by my 4-year-old, he's never flown before.
And that's totally understandable. Occasionally there's a ticket that you buy that you sign your life away and say, I understand I may not sit with my child. And
like the cheapest seats.
Right.
No bag, just
Yeah.
a backpack or something like that.
And honestly, all you can do is ask somebody. And a lot of times I just tell them, just ask them if they'd mind babysitting your child and say, thanks, have a great flight, and they'll switch with you.
And say, he's got a temperature right now, but he shouldn't throw up.
There you go.
That's what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then our son, he was in my lap because he was under 2 years old. The guy wouldn't change. And Jake got sick and threw up mid-flight. And I was like, yeah.
Oh, no.
Stinks to be you.
Yeah.
But anyway,
yeah.
But he paid for that. He wanted to sleep. He was by the window. I don't know why he wouldn't change, but
oh well. I understand, but we have to keep in mind that we did reserve the flight and maybe not the seat. And even as when I'm non-revving with my husband and I'm the employee, sometimes he gets a better boarding group than me. I don't understand how it works either. Nowadays,
is there a size requirement or weight requirement for flight attendants to get a job?
They can't ask that anymore. So, and we don't get weighed, anything like that. But there are things that they won't tell you. The seatbelt on the jump seat has to be able to fasten properly, or you won't be hired. And there are height things. If somebody's too tall or too short, it's not a requirement. They just won't hire you. Like, you won't know. And I don't honestly know what they are, but I have talked to one of our old CEOs who told me I was too tall. He was too tall. So, yeah.
Know before you go.
Right.
How often do you have to get trained or go back to get requalified? Like pilots, and you do the get in the floating.
The recurrent training.
Yes.
Yes, we have to.
The raft.
Get in the raft and put out the fires and save the lives. And yes, it used to be every year. Now it's every 18 months. We have some computer training, and then we go in person and have to do all the things.
I have a very important question that I always forget to talk about in my travel tip videos. The lithium ion batteries that charge your cell phones. If your bag gets checked, because there is no more room in the overhead bins, they cannot go into the belly of the airplane because they can combust.
Yes.
Like, they can just sit there doing nothing and they can catch on fire.
Yes.
What do flight attendants have that is the coolest thing, but you don't want to ever have to use it?
We have a thermal insulation bag, if I said that correctly, and thermal gloves. So once we get the fire out, we actually put that item in. It could be an iPad, it could be a laptop, it could be a phone, anything with a lithium ion battery.
Okay.
It just gets so hot that even once we put out the fire, it can reignite. So we put it inside this thermal containment bag.
And there are no bags like that in the belly of the airplane. That's why they can't go in there. There are things they can do, but
you have to be able to keep an eye on it.
Yes. Okay. And that's why flight attendants make the announcement, if you lose
your phone in the seat, that is for a very specific seat that reclines differently. It's the lie flat seats.
Like first class.
Yes.
Okay.
On the business traveling international flights, those lay flat seats.
I always thought it was so odd. I'm like, if I drop my phone, I can get it, but it's for
most
that
seats
reason.
You can get it, but those particular seats, if it crushes the phone, it can break the battery, it can break the phone,
and catch on fire.
Yeah.
Even faster or more easily, maybe.
I don't really think it has to do with the fire. It's just more of those seats will break your phone in half.
Oh,
it's a separate issue.
Oh! I thought it was for fire.
No.
See. I love it. You learned so much. All right. Well, that's all we have for Jeannine. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
If you have any other questions, just put them down below in the comments and say, hey, if we haven't met yet. Give us her juiciest travel hacks. Not juiciest. Why did I say juicy?
Juicy hacks. And
goodness. Ollie, leave it. Okay. So that'll shut him up. He gets so scared. My lights fall. Videos. Okay. Here's one very important question that I always forget to talk about.
I can't drink today.